Hello, welcome to
Uh,
Six Steel City Rings podcast and our new intro written by my daughter, Madison Quinn. The music and the video, check it out.
yes, welcome to the Six Steel City Rings podcast. I am Ray Whiting. With me, I have Bob Quinn and Zach Facetious. Hey guys, how you doing?
Wonderful. We're missing somebody today.
Yes. In fact, LeeAnn Loman, she is out on a special assignment. She is on the beach. She's on the beach and everything. And we cannot forget about Matt Popynick. He's doing all right as well.
Beer Nick.
Nick. I'm sorry. Matt, forgive
Just
me.
Beer Nick.
Matt starts to my head, not my heart. Sorry.
or,
Guys,
or as he's better known, the Pat Fryer move stunt double.
that's not double. There you go. Okay. All right. I remember that. Guys, today is May 16th, 2024. And these are our topics for today. Cam Heyward's holdout, the 2024 schedule that just came out last night, and the quarterback gauntlet. These are the things that we're going to talk about today. Let's get it started. First, Cam Heyward's holdout. It has been reported that he is holding out. He's not attending the OTAs because he wants a contract extension. Guys, before I give my 2 cents on this, please share your thoughts about Cam Heyward and this holdout for a contract extension. Zach, give me your thoughts, please.
This was a surprise to me. It along with the Najee thing, it feels like the Steelers are going out of their way to mess up on the test so that the teacher knew they didn't cheat. I don't. There's no logical sense to this. I understand that there might be an emotional component to it for Cam, but as far as building the team and wanting the best for the team, I thought we were past this. This feels Ben-ish. And I don't want to put it in the same category but this really feels like a Ben Roethlisberger kind of move. Like, I've earned this. It's not what I'm going to do for you over the next few years. It's what I've done for you before, which is why you're going to pay me now. And that's not a Steeler way. I even was talking to my family about it earlier, and I told them this is a really good way to get the Steelers to take emotion out of it really quickly. Is to start asking for more money. So I see no logic in this. I see no reason why the Steelers should buckle under pressure, because if it came down to it, would the locker room be a little less because we didn't have Cam Heyward in it? Absolutely. But would the season implode because we don't have Cam Heyward on the field? No, it wouldn't. And he's really, really testing those limits. So not okay with this in any way.
Bob, jump in.
Yeah. It's bad enough to me, and I have some issues with Cam in general. He's been the captain, but you look back, I mean, he hasn't won anything in his career. And when it first came out with hey, we want to restructure things and get quarterbacks, you know who didn't restructure their contract? Cam Heyward, and seemed insulted about the idea that he might have to take a pay cut. And now, not only is I'm not going to take a pay cut, now I'm going to hold out for more money, or at least a contract extension. Look, if he wants to take his $22 million contract hit this year and spread it and maybe do 30 over 2 or 40 over 3 and give the Steelers a break, sure, no problem. That would be awesome. It helps the team. To me, it's not coming across like that. It's coming across like, oh, it's just business and I have to do what I don't know if Zach can throw up the Brooke Pryor tweet while we're talking about this. Brooke Pryor, you know, he said he's set to be a free agent in 2025 and that, he's got to do what he's got to do. That was in another part of her tweet. But either way, that's what he said. I've got to do what's right for me. Since when is what's right for Cam Heyward not with the Steelers? Okay, look, has he won anything in his career? No. Did the Steelers just spend a whole offseason retooling, adding quarterbacks? Yes, do we need a wide receiver? Yes, we need a quarterback. But We rebuilt the offensive line, and now all of a sudden, Keanu Benton is coming along and he's pushing. He's probably our number one defensive lineman, whether Cam Heyward likes that or not at this point, from a just on the field play standpoint. But come on. I mean, you're supposed to be the captain. You're supposed to be the leader. Zach, you brought up Ben Roethlisberger. I'm going to throw two names at you: Ben Roethlisberger and Jerome Bettis. You know what? They almost cut Jerome, and he restructured his contract. And Ben, he cut his. I mean, he didn't do it out of the goodness of his heart, neither did Jerome. But they took significant pay cuts to end their career with the Steelers. So Cam Heyward not only doesn't want to follow in the footsteps of Jerome Bettis and Ben Roethlisberger, or so many great defensive players who we said goodbye to, like Greg Lloyd. Did we cut James Harrison? I mean, I don't know why Cam thinks he has this special entitlement. And yes, he's important to the city of Pittsburgh. I'm not knocking him personally, but I am really not happy with what he's done
here. Guys, when it comes to Cam Heyward, I'm on the fence. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me take my glasses off. Okay. I'm on the fence.
Shout out to your doctor.
There you go. Compliments of Dr. Wiley. I'm on the fence with this right here because Cam has shown professionalism throughout his career with Pittsburgh. On top of that, Cam has been productive on the field every play. And again, he has made major progress on the defensive side of the ball. With that being said, it shows the lack when he's out and when he's not in the field. So it's kind of hard to really give someone that big money when he's 35 years old. Am I right?
I think he's 30. Zach, isn't he 33?
I believe he's 35.
Let's look it up.
I know he's on the bad side of 30.
Yes.
Let's look it up. Okay.
Cam
35?
I got it. Keep going,
He's
Ray.
35.
He is 35. Ray's right. Yeah, shout out to Ray.
35 years old. So with that being said, he has produced every time. He has, his production has not slacked off year after year after year. That's a plus on his side. The negative side is, again, you're talking about a 35-year-old wanting a contract extension. Now, this reminds me of James Harrison and TJ Watt. James Harrison still produced, but they saw where TJ Watt was behind him, and they knew what was going to happen. So you mentioned earlier, Keanu Benton basically he's fall right behind Cam Heyward. So he's poised to take over that spot. If you take Cam Heyward out, can that defensive line, those three up front, can they put pressure on the quarterback as well as stop the run? Can they do it is the big question. I don't know at this point right now. The jury is still out on my end. I just feel that I know that they will work out something. Now, also, let's add to this right here. The OTAs, Cam Heyward is a veteran. He knows the deal. Why go to OTAs, risk injury, when you can rest out, just rest your body and get ready for the regular season? Maybe play one preseason game and then just sit out and get ready for game one, the first game against the Falcons. But we're not going to talk about the schedule yet.
Well, just to jump in real quick, Ray. I mean, look, Keanu Benton by any measure, you have to consider him the number one defensive lineman at this point, based on how he played last year as a rookie. And I think ideally, because it's a 3-4, that ideally Cam and Larry Ogunjobi as a rotation opposite Keanu. I want to see Keanu Benton get the majority of snaps this year, whereas he has not before. Or last year. They did it was Ogunjobi and Cam when he was healthy on the field, and Benton was kind of rotating in, only playing about 30-40% of the snaps. That needs to reverse. Ogunjobi is about to hit 30. Cam's on the wrong side of 30. Look, if Cam wants to extend. And hey, you want to play another 3 years? Great, we welcome you in Pittsburgh to play another 3 years. We're not going to pay you $22 million to do it though, as a 35-year-old defensive end. Calais Campbell in Atlanta. I mean, they're not paying him top money, and Calais Campbell is probably going to the Hall of Fame.
I believe, and you just mentioned Larry Ogunjobi. I believe because Larry Ogunjobi hasn't really played any, and I believe that Cam is using this as leverage because Ogunjobi hasn't done anything really. So it's kind of like, oh well, give me that money, and we'll see. Now I'm sure
Cam missed half the year last year, though.
What's
right?
that?
Cam missed half the year last year, though. So
Yeah,
I mean, he did the same thing as Ogunjobi.
Yeah, but look at the impact Cam has made as opposed to Ogunjobi. You see what I mean?
Ogunjobi doesn't have as many sacks.
Ogunjobi, I mean, rarely was his name called when he was on the field. And let's face it. I mean, really. I just believe that
it's kind of the nature of the position.
Cam is not going to go as far as if he get that money and he's not going to live up to it. I believe he will play lights out. And most of all, Cam has been upright, been a Steeler, through and through. I want to see him finish his career as a Steeler. I don't want to see him go elsewhere.
That's what hurt us before. That's what's hurt us in the past is saying that because of what a player has done for the Steelers in the past, he deserves the money, the extension. Now, I cannot see the Steelers go back to a system that brings way too much emotion into it, and the word loyalty gets thrown around. I understand that point, but we were all very loyal people in our franchise without a team that won anything. So if we're okay with that for another decade, then yeah, bring Heyward and everyone else back in and pay them all the money. But hey, unless you're Aaron Donald, you're not going to get paid as a pure middle of the defensive line player. If you can't play multiple positions along that line and be impactful on all of them, you don't deserve the kind of money he's probably going to ask for. And we have guys waiting. I mean, Braden Fedenko, we have no idea if he can do it. Logan Lee, right, is waiting.
Yeah,
so
the guy
people
that drafted.
people we have that we can test out. I don't like the fact that it's like he's testing the front office because the logical answer is no, Cam. We don't need you. We want you. You are a benefit while you're here, but don't make us say that we don't need you. I don't want it to get to that point. It's going to get ugly. There's no need for it. So this whole thing frustrates me because there's no need for it on any level except for emotion.
But you know what? And this is where it puts pressure on Omar Khan. Because if we look at that mindset, Zach, don't force us to say that we don't need you. Now, the last time a player played on the emotions of the front office and he stuck around too long was Troy Polamalu. You see what I mean?
Well, wait a minute. You got James and Ben did it after Troy.
Well, wait a minute. I'm just staying on this defensive side of the ball. Mm-hmm. Troy Polamalu, to me, he stayed too long. And I understand, when it comes to the Steeler franchise, once a Steeler, always a Steeler, unless you're Rashard Mendenhall. I'm sorry, that was a little cheap shot, but it was all in fun. Rashard
Garrett Blunt.
Huh? Oh,
let's put his name in that too.
Oh gosh.
Once a Steeler, glad you're a Patriot.
There you go. So I mean, let's face it, guys. I mean, again, we have a tendency of holding players too long, but I believe certain key positions, if you're still producing, again, on one side of the coin, give them the money. Well, now I say this: Pittsburgh has the top, is the most expensive defense in the league right now, and you're talking about giving an extension. Okay, turn it into a signing bonus. Do that.
Or don't even
make it incentive based. Make it incentive based.
Well, here's the thing. Cam signed a big contract when he was 29, and there's really some thought of whether he should have got that contract. Now that the Steelers at the time, 5 years ago, he was playing at a high level. Okay, I get it. I understand. Yes, we're going to do this, but they kind of always knew at the end of this contract there'd be fall off, and he was getting paid a lot of money. Salaries have exploded, so 22 million isn't as big of a hit as it once was, but still a lot of money. You know what we could have done with $22 million, folks? We could have signed a big name free agent at wide receiver. We could have signed a big name free agent cornerback. Cam at 35 is still a very good player, but he's not going to get healthier as he gets older. He's going to start falling off. He has to go into a rotation. He could play another 5 years in a rotation, but he's got to get paid like a rotational player. If Cam was doing this saying, I want 3 years, no problem. Do you want 3 years of $15 million a year? No problem. We'll take the 22 we owe you. That's a signing bonus. We'll pay it to you this year, and then you get 2 more years at 30. And fine. So we save a little money on the cap, and we can go forward. But I mean, come on, you're supposed to be the leader, and let's be honest about it. Walter Payton, Man of the Year, great individual, but has a reputation as being very chippy. Has taken some really dumb penalties. Remember a couple of years ago when Minka Fitzpatrick got on him on the sidelines for taking a dumb roughing penalty for pulling the
Yeah, I
guy
remember
off
that.
the
Yes,
pile?
yes.
But he's a guy who likes to fight in practice. He starts fights in practice. You know, yes, we love him. We want him to retire as a Steeler, but let's not forget that there's some issues. And under Cam's leadership of the defense, we didn't win anything. We haven't won a playoff game in 7 years. As a matter of fact, Cam Heyward is if he ends up going to the Hall of Fame long term and goes down as a great Steeler Hall of Famer, he'll be one of the few Steeler Hall of Famers who never played in an AFC championship game. Because the year we went, he was hurt. He didn't play. And just one quick thing I want to throw in. You talked about TJ Watt and James Harrison. It's James Harrison actually is the reason TJ Watt has became a superstar, because he could see in practice that TJ Watt was much better on his side of the defense than he was on the opposite side of the defense. James Harrison said, when he does that rip move, he's unstoppable. He should be playing on my side of the defense. So I give James Harrison huge credit, and kind of Steeler way. He recognized, hey, TJ Watt's younger and better than me at this point in my career. I want to win games. Let's get him on the side of the defense he belongs.
Well, my last thought on this, it kind of feels like we're the Falcons trying to explain the Michael Penix pick. We all know it was a bad choice. We all know what we're talking about cannot be explained away as a good situation. We're just trying to make some sense of it, while underneath it all, we know for a fact this isn't good. Like the Falcons are aware that we're aware of it. Where every single person, apparently other than Hayward and his agent, are sitting there saying, "What? Why?" And so that's what I'll leave it at. Anytime after this, someone will ask me about the Cam thing, I'll say why, and then just move on. It,
Okay.
it, because
Guys,
he had what 2.5 sacks last year. He had 10 sacks or more the 2 seasons before in 21 and 22. So are we going to assume that Cam Hayward's suddenly a groin injury has made him more? No. I'm glad to have those 2 years, but if you think the city of Pittsburgh owes you something, get a marketing campaign with the city of Pittsburgh. Don't take from the roster.
Exactly.
So it's just I don't one of the things, but
It strikes me as
I'm
a very
excited
me
about.
move from a guy who's not a me, who portrays himself as not a me guy.
Yes. Yeah. That's the word the portrayal. And I never I maybe you guys have since but I've never questioned that part of Hayward before this. I've never even thought that Hayward might not be the locker room guy, the leader guy that he appears to be, and I don't want to question it. Just like last year, I didn't want to question Mike Tomlin. I did. It felt bad in my soul. I didn't like it, but I had to. And right now, I'm like, this is making me look don't like this, Cam.
Yeah.
We could have had a great fun season, and now you did this. Why? And it's not going to be a TJ thing. It's not going to be a hold in. We're not going to see 35-year-old Cam on the sidelines in training camp. He's going to be sitting in a very, very nice house somewhere. So
Yeah.
it's one of those. I don't want to assume what a player's financial situation is. It's never fair to do that. But at some point, I do have to say, is that necessary? Is it a status thing you're going? Because I know to a lot of players, being the highest paid, that legitimately matters to them. That holds some weight. But it again takes you back. Didn't think Cam was the guy that stuff like that mattered to.
I think he
So
really thinks he's
I
Aaron Donald. Don't you think, Zach? I
I,
mean, he
I
kind of thinks
guess
he's Aaron
so.
Donald.
If he thinks that he's a fool, but I mean, we can go back and forth on this, guys. It's going to work out. They're going to work out a contract for them. I believe they will. Guys, the 2024 season has been released. And before we go into our rants, now it's been reported that the top 3 toughest schedules, number 1 is the Ravens, 2, the Bengals, 3, the Steelers. My response to that is BS. Oh, I'm sorry. The Browns, Ravens, Steelers. I'm sorry. It's still AFC North. Guys, to me, the bottom line is the AFC North is the toughest division in football. If you want to translate this into college football, this is the SEC. And everybody else just falls in line. Just damn it, just fall in line. But before I get into my rant about this, guys, you all jump in. Let's talk about it. Let's chew on it.
Well, okay, let's talk about player safety for a minute. Loud noises! Okay, so the NFL, in all its wisdom, gives us Philadelphia on a Sunday, Baltimore on a Saturday, coming off of their bye week, and then 4 days later gives us the Kansas City Chiefs on Christmas Day on a Wednesday. Philadelphia, we haven't won in Philadelphia since 1965. Not only do we lose badly, and we usually get beaten up. Then we're going to play the game that is always the most physical game of the year, the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. And then we're going to get rewarded by playing Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs on Wednesday night on Netflix. It's absolutely ridiculous. You want to come at me with player safety initiatives? Congratulations. We can wear the domed helmets, which I love in games. But you're playing 3 games in basically 10 days against the Super Bowl participant 2 years ago and a historically bad matchup for the Steelers. You're playing the guys who went to the AFC Championship game last year, who it's not the last game of the year. They won't be resting anybody. We're playing Baltimore for real this year, folks. And then we top all that off with the 2-time Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, who historically have owned us over the last few years since Mahomes got there. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So even if we make it through that gauntlet and don't lose anybody, at that point, our reward is then to finish the season with the Bengals a week and a half later and potentially get off to a great start over the first half of the season. And if we manage to maybe go 1-2, 2-1 in that stretch, or 2-2 with when you throw the Bengals in there, to maybe limp into the playoffs. And I can hear the national narrative now. Steelers get off to a hot start. Let's say we go 7-2 the first 9 games. But then we start to run into the good news is playing the division in the second half. I don't think that's a horrible deal. I just don't like the timing of the games that they did with us. We've owned the AFC North over the last 5 years. I mean, we could easily go 5-1 again in the AFC North. So if that happens, that's good. But throwing in Philadelphia and Kansas City back in the back of that schedule, and if we drop a couple of games, or let's say we go through that stretch, and let's say high potential 7 years in a row, that's our 3-game losing streak. you could hear the guys on ESPN and NFL Network now. Oh, the Pittsburgh wasn't as good as we thought they were. They're collapsing down the stretch like they did with Ben's second to last year. You could just hear the narratives that I mean, if you think the NFL is scripted, folks, they just handed you what the script's going to be for the Steelers down the stretch if they falter. Hopefully they won't. I don't think they will. But if they do, that's what the script's going to be.
What really frustrated me is I felt like the Steelers were a little disrespected when it came to the first two games. I was looking forward to the revenge games to see how Arthur Smith was going to do against Atlanta, to see how Russell Wilson was going to do against Denver, and both right at the beginning, without much fanfare, kind of seemed like they were a little throwaway, like it was a shrug. So that disappointed me a bit, but I'm I'm half looking forward to and half dreading the end of the season because, like Bob said, those 3 games in 10 days are vicious, but we don't even start playing divisional games until the middle of November. I mean that's unheard of. I know Brooke Pryor today was talking to one of the NFL executives in charge of the schedule, and he said that they didn't intend to have it that way, and they're going to review in the future. I'm like, well, that's great, and don't tell me that everyone thought it was a benefit because I know a lot of people are going to be upset about this. But like you said, Ray, this is a vicious division. The AFC North is one of the hardest divisions, one of the most competitive, one of the most bruising. You expect to come out of every game, regardless of how good the teams are. You expect to come out bloody. And put it in that compact of an area, I like Bob, you said limping into I can't imagine how we're not going to limp into whatever the end of the season looks like after that kind of a brutal stretch. Even if we win, what is the cost going to be? We saw the cost of doing business last season. A wild card loss against the Bills cost us every linebacker we had. So what are we going to pay this season to hopefully get a playoff win? What does a win cost us? So I'm just curious, do we have the depth on defense? I'm not worried about the offense, weirdly enough. I think we've drafted well for depth. If stuff happens, if we have to shift some stuff around to the offensive line, I'm not too worried about that. But even with Patrick Queen and the, I want to just be 100% on the Patrick Queen train, but you have to ask the questions. There is a chance that Roquan Smith made Patrick Queen who Patrick Queen was. If that ends up happening, we're in more trouble. So that's what I'm worried about. We have to get to November 17th in really, really good state. Me and Bob were talking about this the other day, and Bob said 6-2. We get to 6-2 on November 17th. Will be good. That might not even be enough, depending on what the rest does to us. We might absolutely 100% need that first round bye just to be competitive in the rest of the playoffs. So I like the fact that the Steelers are up against it. It's a big challenge. One of the hardest strength of schedules out there. But the reality when you have to actually go out and play it is something completely different. And we have to not just do well in the first half of the season, we have to cruise and look like a well-oiled machine to that first half of the season so that when we hit that last part, we can be a buzzsaw. I don't want to get mired down in that last part of it to the point where we're like, oh, well, I really hope it's non-losing again. Because if anyone says that this season, non-losing is not a word people are allowed to use in a positive thing. So there's just a lot of concern about it. But if there's any season where I think we're built to really take this kind of a challenge, it's this one. If we can't compete with the rest of the NFL with what we've done this offseason, maybe we don't deserve to do it right now. So,
yeah, it's interesting you say that because Mark Schlereth, I heard on the he wasn't on the Dan Patrick show, but Dan Patrick was talking about it. Mark Schlereth predicted that, okay, this is the first losing season for the Steelers. Part of the reasoning was he can't resist taking a shot at Russell Wilson. Schlereth, we all know, is a Bronco great. He hates Russell Wilson with a passion, or at least it sure seems like he does. But yeah, that being said, look, if we started off, let's say everything's going great, we're 10-2 heading into the last 5, and let's say we finish 11-6, and we've had a 1-4 limp to the playoffs is how they'll color it. And now all of a sudden you're banged up because you Baltimore, Kansas City, Philadelphia, Cincinnati. You limp into the playoffs. You know, maybe you're playing a first round. Maybe we won the division in 11-6, but we're having to play in the first round. And all of a sudden we're too tired. I mean, look at the Cleveland Browns game when we got there in 2020 and we got destroyed and we're down before we even knew it. That was an old, tired football team. Our offense isn't old, but our defense is. So is that what it's going to look like if we do have a great run at the first half of the season, limp into the playoffs? And then can we legitimately blame Mike Tomlin for that? I don't think so. I think if he goes 11-6 and loses in the first round, we're all going to be upset about it. And in theory, we should blame Mike Tomlin. But how can you with this schedule?
Bob, I was going to say the same thing. And part of me said this, maybe it's a conspiracy theory that says, you know what? We want Mike Tomlin to have his first losing season. There's no way in hell that any NFL franchise has had 6 of their 8 last games, all division opponents. I've never seen it in my life. Never.
Well, that's happened before. They said that on the schedule. But
I've never seen it. I've never seen it. Now, with that being said, now, when you look at, let's look at the schedule, okay? Let's look at the early part, okay? Got to put my glasses on. So we look at the Atlanta Falcons. Now we say that we say that that should be a win right there. It should be a W. Denver, you know, they still trash. We should win that.
Well, hold on. Mike Tomlin's 0-3 in Denver.
Right, exactly. So again, we cannot overlook that because there are certain places that Pittsburgh goes to that we just don't do well. One in particular is Philadelphia, like you mentioned earlier. LA Chargers, to me, kind of iffy. I mean, again, we're thinking about Justin Herbert, and now you have Jim Harbaugh, the new coach there. The Colts, going back to Indy. Now, again, last year, they didn't have Anthony Richardson. He's going to be back as a quarterback because Gardner Minshew was the quarterback. And again, look what Indy did to us last year. So that right there is, I think it's going to be a tough game. They'll have Jonathan Taylor back also. The big game, the Sunday night game, October 6th, Dallas. You know, and again, that right there, that.
Let me ask you a question, Ray.
Yes.
Is Dak Prescott going to play quarterback for Dallas?
Yes.
Mark it down. It's a win. Move on.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
no. Guess whose game that will be? Solely placed on Joey Porter Jr. because he has to guard CD Lamb. Mark my words. Okay. So
are they going to sign CD to an extension? Maybe he'll be old now.
Well, no, because look here, because the person next in line for Dallas will be Micah Parsons. So it's going to be pretty interesting for Dallas, but that's a side note.
Yeah, that's a good question. Do you pay CD Lamb or do you pay Micah Parsons? I mean, you could really make a good argument for either one of them.
Well, to me, common sense would say, you know what, sign Micah Parsons. Just saying.
Common sense would say it, but Parsons disappeared last year. In the playoffs a little bit. For what Micah Parsons is supposed to be able to do to games, I remember the Kansas City game with TJ, and we'll get to that later.
Yeah. But the thing is,
we had a chance in that game.
But the thing is, Zach, when Pittsburgh played Dallas, it's going to be kind of hard for Michael because we have those two big bookend tackles. So I'm okay with that, but we'll see. Next at Las Vegas, I believe we should win that game easy. I mean, the quarterback situation there, who knows? But
I would remind you of the Bruce Gradkowski, Ben Roethlisberger game in Oakland.
We don't play well against the Raiders. We played badly against the Raiders.
Well, remember last year now, look what Calvin Austin did with that 73-yard touchdown pass. But the only threat I see in Las Vegas is Devontae Adams. That's it. And then you have
Max
The guy on
Crosby
defense.
is not one to overlook. I mean, I know we got bookends, but Crosby is going to get his sacks.
Max
Yeah,
Crosby, yeah.
Crosby's definitely a top. I mean, he's a top 5 edge, and you could make the argument. I mean, to me, you could have made the argument last year he was a top 2 edge. I think he's better than Myles Garrett. I just do. Now, maybe not overall for his whole career, but last year I thought Max Crosby, aside from TJ, was the best game wrecker in the NFL. But nobody paid
Now,
attention. It was the Raiders.
what I'm curious to hear from Ray is I know we're going to get to the Aaron Rodgers thing and the quarterback thing,
Mhm.
but with the Jets coming up, Ray, you take Aaron Rodgers out of that out of the scenario. Just how do you think we're going to do against the Jets? Like, I get Aaron Rodgers, we'll talk about him. Steelers against Jets as a whole. How do you
Mhm.
think they're going to do?
I believe if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, this will be a tough game because Aaron Rodgers has a good connection with Garrett Wilson. We both know that. And again, one thing I love about Joey Porter Jr. is he wants to go up against the number one receiver, the ones. Great. And again, he has proven himself last season. Now, of course, it's a new season. I mean, he's seen new faces. So we'll see how that turns out. I believe the measure stick for Joey Porter Jr. will be CeeDee Lamb when they play Dallas on October 6th. If Joey Porter Jr. can shut down Garrett Wilson, I do believe we have a shot of winning against the Jets. Again, we cannot discount Aaron Rodgers because Aaron is Aaron. I would say for the first 8 weeks, the easiest game will be the Giants, I believe. You don't have Saquon Barkley. Daniel Jones is, trash. Let's face it, he's trash. And then, I mean, of course, you have that.
Made the playoffs the last time 2 years ago when he played.
Yeah, but who's the catalyst for that? Saquon Barkley.
Well, I'm just going back to Daniel Jones for a minute. He's a very mobile quarterback that gives us trouble. I mean, he's an excellent runner. He's a better runner than he is a passer. We don't get a lot of the pushback on some of the other stuff that like Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields go through with, he's just a runner, not a passer. But right. Daniel Jones is a runner, not a passer, although their receiver core is much better this
year. It's going to be interesting how this plays out because, like I said, folks say that Pittsburgh has to go at least 7-2. Okay. Again, there's some games here, the early games, I'm skeptical about. And again,
well, if you're skeptical about the first 9, how do you feel about the last 8?
Right. I mean, I haven't got to that part yet. And again, with the week 9 bye, I mean, I wish the bye week was a little bit later than that because again, that gives them some sort of rest in a way.
Well,
and
actually, Ray, I have a question right before you get to that for you about that because the bye week worries me weirdly enough because you talk about the Jets, Aaron Rodgers, Sunday night, big emotional buildup. They know the Ravens are coming up in a few weeks and what that starts. So they have the Giants. Everyone might shrug them off. The Commanders, everyone might shrug off on a bye week. Those are 3 weeks where the Steelers could shrug off a bit too much. Do you think there's a chance that those are 3 trap weeks where we could lose our focus? We could where it's supposed to be a moment where we get our bearings and prepare for that last half. But because of the emotional letdown after the Rodgers game and what we know we are going into, are those a dangerous 3 weeks?
1,000%, Zach. The question is, which game will the Steelers lose focus on? That's the number one question right there. And when the Steelers lose focus of a game and they lose, the first person they're going to blame is Mike Tomlin. Kind of like that 3-game losing stretch, with New England.
That was New England.
Or you can New England, Arizona, and Indy. But you can say that. I mean, so if they say it last year, but it's been 6 years in a row. And based on this schedule, there's a good chance it'll be 7. And I'm sorry, but Hall of Fame winning coaches don't have 3-game losing streaks every year.
But and that's true, Bob. But you know what? But again, look at the schedule and the way it's set up. I think it's conspiracy theory that this is set up for Mike Tomlin to have his first losing season. No one,
Yeah,
no one's saying that the Steelers should get an easy schedule. Don't get me wrong. My thing is how it's scheduled, because again, 6 of the 8 last games of the regular season, they're all division opponents. That's the crazy part right there.
Yeah, but we were 5-1 against the division last year. That's actually, those are tough physical games.
But look how
would I like them spread out a little bit more?
Right.
Yes, but I'm not concerned with playing the AFC North the second half of the season, because I think there's a good chance Deshaun Watson could be hurt by that time. Lamar Jackson was healthy last year, but let's face it, the 3 years previous, he missed tail end of the season. Joe Burrow, okay, every other year he plays all 17 games. Well, maybe this year it'll be 2 years in a row, and we'll start talking about, hey, Joe Burrow, he's great when he's on the field, but he never gets on the field. So,
well,
I like the idea of playing some of these guys in the second, but it's the mixing in of a Philly, a Kansas City at the just worst time. I hate that.
Because you're talking about 3 games in 10 days.
Yeah.
3 games in 10 days. I mean, on top of the final 8 games of the regular season, you're talking about 6 of them in your division. That right there, guys, I'm sorry, here's my thought. If the Steelers make the playoffs, I don't give a damn if they're 1 and done. Mike Tomlin should get Coach of the Year honors. I'm sorry. No.
Right off
they
the
make
bat,
the playoffs.
I'd like to say, I don't want another playoff loss. Can we not speak that into manifestation?
Well, I mean, and Zach, I don't want to speak that into the atmosphere, but the fact remains that the last time we've been in the playoffs is 1 and out the door. And again, I'm not wishing
7 years,
I'm not
5 games in a row.
Yeah,
if he loses a 6th game in a row, look. If he has a 3-game losing streak, even with the schedule we have, if he loses in the first round of the playoffs and we're the 7th seed, no. Not only should he not be Coach of the Year, you can make a serious case that, hey, wait a minute, what are we doing here, guys? And how many more years are we going to lose? Look, I think Marvin Lewis, who started with the Steelers as a defensive coordinator, I think Marvin Lewis is one of the best coaches in the NFL, in the recent NFL history. Yes, he had terrible luck in the playoffs. Yes, he did. And Cincinnati was right to fire him, because at that point, the message has gotten stale. You're not winning playoff games. I'm sorry. This is the NFL. We're not here to make everybody feel good and, hey, good job getting to the playoffs. Marvin Lewis got that for a long time. And I think it's a crime that he hasn't gotten a second chance to see if he could do it. Marty Schottenheimer, nice guy, great NFL coach. If you needed a guy to turn your franchise around, Marty Schottenheimer was great in the regular season. He was awful in the playoffs. At some point, you have to recognize, and don't throw me the 15 years ago he won a championship. Woohoo! Don Shula won a championship in the 80s and eventually and they let him retire, but Chuck Noll retired. It was, okay, Don, you got to go. Tom Landry is, the only one of those great coaches who officially got the boot after several losing seasons. Playoffs matter. It matters. Look, Mike Tomlin can be let go, and we can all still look back on him as a Steeler great. Bill Cowher left, Chuck Noll left. We love those guys. We're going to love Mike Tomlin forever. Coach Tomlin, if you're watching, we love you. But if you don't start winning playoff games, I'm sorry. I don't love you more than I love the brand. I mean, what's that old Herb Brooks line from the Miracle movie? The name on the front is a lot more important than the name on the back. So, yeah, do we love you? But, hey, and personally, I do think he's going to start winning playoff games. I think he understands the pressure. And as much as people say it's a done deal, he's getting a contract extension. Let's face it, it's almost June. Where's the contract extension? I think he's coaching for his job. And personally, I think he's going to keep his job. I think he's going to find a way.
Yes. Yes.
think this is all so many interesting things are lining up, and I feel this is like w- we're getting exactly what we asked for. And like with the Najee situation, I'm not particularly happy we're getting what we asked for. I asked the Steelers to take emotion out of it and to really think of the team in the long term. So we did the Najee thing. I'm like, no, not with Najee. Then we're like, you know what? The Steelers deserve to contend for a Super Bowl again. We should be back at the elite. They're like, okay, we'll give you one of the harder schedules and hand you a bunch of guys. We're like, wait, no, not like that. We didn't mean that. So we're getting exactly what we asked for. And not only that, this sets up such, I'm going to say, one of the more interesting Steelers seasons from every perspective I can remember in the last while. You have Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Who's going to be the one in the future? Who's going to get paid? Who's not? You have a new offensive coordinator. You have Najee on a 1 year thing. You have all these guys who this year will determine what their futures are going forward. And we
1000%.
could, like, I agree with Bob. This could be another Tomlin thing. I love that you brought up the extension thing that everyone keeps saying, oh, it'll happen. But everyone in the back of their head's like, yeah, but will it? If we hear nothing about it, that could be the case. They're like, listen, you, Naj, ever, you prove why you're supposed to be here and not just why the city of Pittsburgh loves you. Take that out of the equation. Why should you be here? And it's a prove it season. And what I like is a lot of times prove it seasons have a lot more holes in the roster than this does. This is a prove it season where everyone is set up for success. It's not a hey, prove it and then throw you a couple, this is prove it with tools. Arthur Smith, prove it with an offense you've done it before. Russell Wilson, prove it with a squad that you've done it before. Najee, prove it with this team that you've run for 1,000 yards for 3 straight years. These guys have everything they need to show who they are. So if we get to the end of the season, we haven't won anything, we've lost a playoff game, we deserve to move on from these guys. We shouldn't, take it as a big letdown, which it will be. It's a sign. So this is all exactly what we asked for, and it's set up to make sure that whatever the next 10 years Steelers football looks like, it's better than what the last 10 years look like.
Guys, think about this right here. After the bye week, Washington Commanders, Jaden Daniels, Heisman Trophy winner. Ravens.
Tomlin kills rookie quarterbacks, though.
Lamar Jackson, Heisman Trophy winner. Cleveland Browns, Heisman Trophy finalist, and Deshaun Watson. Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow, Heisman Trophy winner. Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts, national champion. Then Baltimore again, Lamar Jackson, Heisman Trophy winner. Kansas City Chiefs, 3-time Super Bowl champion Patrick Mahomes. And then to end the regular season, once again, Joe Burrow. Guys, again, that right there, not only is that the gauntlet for the season, but that's the quarterback gauntlet right there as well. I mean, that right there, that's murder's row right there. And again, the pressure to me is not just only on Mike Tomlin. It's also on Arthur Smith and Russell Wilson. And damn it, I'm going to tell you right now, Justin Fields, he better be studying the playbook right now. If he has like a microchip in his, USB port in his arm, whatever, maybe to kind of plug it in and let them download the playbook in his head so he'll learn it in case Russell Wilson goes down. Guys, I'm telling you right now, this is murder's row right here. And we said that we were kind of griping about it, but we can't wait to see what turns out about it. Time will tell.
Well, to me, before we start talking about this ridiculous quarterback gauntlet that we have to go to, this schedule, Zach probably isn't old enough to remember this, but Cliff Stout back in '83 took over for Bradshaw based on injury, and we got off to a tremendous start. We started off 9-2, and all of a sudden, some whispers to, is Bradshaw too old? Do we still need him? And then we collapsed down the stretch. We ended up finishing 10-6 after starting 9-2, and we got obliterated in the divisional round of the AFC playoffs by the vagabond Raiders who Marcus Allen's Raiders, Jim Plunkett's Raiders. They were a good team. They were better than us, but we got obliterated. So, but we played some heavy hitters down the stretch, and it hurt us. This reminds me of that. I haven't, you were talking about the schedule is unfair to play half the division. I mean, you kind of rotate. The NFL rotates. It's predictable. Every 4 years you play a division, but this is a group of quarterbacks that, I cannot remember a team having to face this level of quarterbacks. You start off with Kirk Cousins, who is coming off an injury, but let's face it, it's not a playoff game they're playing him in. So, which means he's going to play pretty well. And last time he played the Steelers, he carved us up before Ben put on the miracle, to almost bring us back. Then you look at a guy, you get a kind of a break in Denver because who knows who's going to play quarterback there. But it's a place we don't play very well at. Then the next game, then we're going against. Is it Indy? I'm sorry, I don't have the schedule completely.
No, we got Justin Herbert.
We get Justin Herbert next.
No. After Atlanta is the Broncos.
He skipped over Denver, and for good reason.
Okay.
Yeah, because we don't know who's going to play quarterback there.
Oh, I thought it didn't think that Denver was worth anything.
Yeah, Stidham, Bo Nix. Either one of those guys, I don't care. That should be advantage us. Although, like I said, it's kind of a house of horrors for the Steelers.
You know what? Just on the off chance that any people are watching from Denver and it's going to end up hurting us, there we go. Bo Nix, legitimate quarterback, very afraid of facing them. Okay, now to move on.
Yes. And then after Justin Herbert, we get Anthony Richardson, assuming he's healthy. If we get lucky and get the backup in India for a second year in a row, Gardner Minshew is not playing there. So, even the first half of the season, after Richardson, Zach, can you throw the schedule up real quick?
After Richardson, you got you have
we don't count Aiden O'Connell. Let's face it, if we lose to Aiden O'Connell, folks, Mike Tomlin is gonna have his worst season in a long time.
I'll say this: I've seen a lot of bad Steeler losses. There are so many bad Steelers Raiders losses that have punctuated my time that I don't think we should say anything bad about Aiden O'Connell right now on the off chance that it just makes him matter. So I know we're so overlooked. It's the Raiders. It is Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin plays down to people. It's a rough series. Just watch this be the game where we lose 56-0 and Aiden O'Connell looks like early Peyton Manning.
Or the Raiders come to their senses and they play Gardner Minshew, which is a real possibility. Minshew could be the guy we face when we go to the Raiders.
Especially by that time. That would give O'Connell enough time to show that Minshew should be there. So that's one of those toss-up ones. So, I wouldn't put the Las Vegas game on the quarterback gauntlet worry. It's just a concern because it's the Raiders. And I'm wondering if every time Mike Tomlin plays the Raiders, he just forgets to go to the office that week. I don't know what happens, but yeah, so.
There's something in the air. Something in the air when it comes to playing the Raiders.
And I understand Prescott, but for me, and I know for Ray too, the real quarterback gauntlet begins if this doesn't happen.
He's good. At least they got him in the ankle.
If it doesn't happen again, then the quarterback gauntlet's going to start against the Jets. But there's a very good chance when we get to that point, there's a big letdown. And actually, I don't know. Who's the Jets' backup? Because I know Zach Wilson went elsewhere. Does anyone know who the Jets' backup is? Anyone know? Anyone even know who we play?
He was traded.
I legitimately don't.
Is it the guy they were trotting out at the end of the year? Jets quarterback depth chart. Let's take a look.
Yeah, that just shows. So many people. It's Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers so happy he's back. You don't even
Tyrod Taylor, he's a pretty decent backup.
He is, yes.
Actually, that shows the Jets are actually a little bit of forward thinking. Okay, and honestly, if we get there and Aaron Rodgers is injured, I'm not going to take Tyrod Taylor, I'm not going to overlook him. Tyrod Taylor can be very dangerous.
Well,
Yes.
one thing I will say about getting Aaron Rodgers in week 7, I'd rather get him towards the middle or towards the end of the season than at the beginning, because you got the injury history. He's a 40-year-old quarterback. You know, yes, has he got one of the best arms that the NFL has ever seen? Absolutely. He's a great quarterback, but he's a 40-year-old quarterback. And if your name isn't Tom Brady, 40 means something. Brett Favre fell off. I mean, let's face it, Aaron Rodgers followed Brett Favre's footsteps to the Jets. When he left Green Bay, he went to the Jets. Aaron Rodgers followed to the Jets. So, you know, he had a nice year. You know, I think he was 41 at the time for the Vikings, but it didn't work out with the Jets. So if that happens, and you know, all of a sudden he's injured or whatever, and we're facing Tyrod Taylor, no, I'm not going to. I don't think they should take Tyrod Taylor lightly, but it's a heck of a lot better chance to beat the Jets with Tyrod Taylor than it is to beat the Jets with Aaron Rodgers.
It's kind of like playing Peyton Manning when he was on the Broncos. You played Peyton Manning in the first couple games of the season, throwing 7 touchdowns against you, looking like his old self. You play Peyton Manning later on in the season, he's got a noodle arm. And the knock on him throughout his whole collegiate thing was, oh, he can't throw the deep ball. That became very, very true and glaringly apparent the older he got. So even if we get Aaron Rodgers, we didn't get to see what Aaron Rodgers looked like that year. Everyone forgets that. If we would have seen Aaron Rodgers play a full season, he might have retired and not be playing this season. We don't know what this Aaron Rodgers looks like. So do I want the Steelers to have every legitimate challenge at every position, so we know when, regardless of how the season works out, we know going into 2025, can we contend or can we not? I want to know where we are in our rebuild, because I don't care if people don't like the R word or not. Ben Roethlisberger retired. We started a rebuild.
I
That's it. When
believe
a Hall of Fame quarterback retires, you start a rebuild. I know
And
people
right
don't
around
like
Thanksgiving, you'll find out, Zach.
yeah. I believe for next year, 2025, I believe the Pittsburgh Steelers' number 1 priority will be signing a quarterback. Now, Dak Prescott may be out there, or you may go through the draft.
No, don't even say that word.
I disagree. I think we've set ourselves up for a positive no matter what. I'm curious. How do you think that the Justin Fields whistle is not going to work out?
I've heard that from somewhere. Dak Prescott, that's a possibility if Dak is released or he doesn't get a new contract extension with Dallas. Time will tell.
Dak Prescott's never won anything either. Hey, you know what? If Dak Prescott's a possibility of pairing up with Mike Tomlin, do it in Dallas.
Nah.
Ooh, I like that. But I just found the tweet I'm going to use to promote this thing right there. Just do it in Dallas.
Come on, Bob. You come on, Bob. You can't do it like that.
Dak Prescott is. I have this argument. Sorry, Zach. Let me just say this. I have this argument with my brother, who's a huge Cowboy fan forever. And I wouldn't even say it's an argument. Dak Prescott has never, will never win anything in the NFL from a meaningful perspective. Look, he's a 4th-round draft pick. He's had a nice career. He is the most overpaid player in the NFL. He's not good. If Dak Prescott is leading your team in the playoffs, you're going home. Congratulations. You beat 52-year-old Tom Brady, who's probably lying about his age. He cheats on everything else. I'm sorry. Dak Prescott to the Steelers, complete non-starter. I'd rather have a rookie. I'd rather have Kenny Pickett. I'd rather have Mason Rudolph. Heck, let's see what Terry Bradshaw can do at 75 years old.
Well, Bob, I mean, I'm not saying this as an act of wishful thinking to sign Dak Prescott if he's available next year. But what I am saying about this here is we got to look at the play of Russell Wilson and how he performs this season. And again, we got him on the sheet with $1 million. If we have a successful season, we make the playoffs, and we get a playoff win, we had the discussion before. Do you give him that money?
Well, that's actually money it is.
Exactly, and weirdly enough, I'm okay with whatever that answer is, because the there was a couple moves that started bringing me back into the fold of fully trusting the Steelers as an organization. Because a couple of years ago, I used to be, the Steelers did it. I might not understand it. Gonna trust it. It's gonna work out. That did not get us to a good place. So they have to re-earn that trust. And the firing of Matt Canada was a big one. Because I was on the Mike Tomlin needs to go train. I was like, this is some form of a blindness that you can't see how bad Canada is. The quarterback situation was another move that got me closer to trusting the team again, because it was a think of now and think of later and do it in a way that is masterful. We got to screw the Bears over again, which was great. But even if Russell Wilson doesn't work out, don't pay him. We got Justin Fields. I don't think I cannot imagine a situation where we go into 2025 and the true number one focus is finding a quarterback. If
And if
2025 isn't dedicated entirely to the defensive line, we did something wrong in 2024. I feel that should be the main area we look at. We've fixed a lot of things. Do I wish Terry and Arnold would be in black and gold? Yes. But Troy Fautano, I love that he's here instead, and it's probably going to be proved right in the long run. But the quarterback situation, I am content with. It doesn't, regardless of what happens down the road, I feel like they've set themselves up so those decisions won't just be easier, but will be better for the team.
And let's face it, if we're looking for a quarterback in 2025, 2024 will be probably the worst season since 1988.
Depending on the schedule, we'll see. I mean, the record. It depends. But like I say, I mean, we got to think about the schedule.
Oh, Ray, if they let both quarterbacks go, both quarterbacks played badly during the 2024 season, which means we weren't very good. Because I'm telling you right now, if you think the running game and the defense is going to beat this slate of quarterbacks, you're wrong. It's not going to happen. So one of the two of them has to play well for us to have the whole season or have the season we're hoping for. And I think they will. I think Wilson could start off well. If Wilson starts off slow and we lose a couple of games at the front of the schedule, we're cooked. Might as well put Justin Fields in and see what we got.
It's possible. Yeah, it's possible. Guys, great talk today. Great talk. Cam Heyward's contract, the schedule, and the quarterback gauntlet. Guys, this is something to remember right here. And again, it's going to come up again. And we're going to have this discussion again. And we're going to say, well, why didn't we? Or why didn't they do this? Or why didn't Tomlin? You know what? That's why we talk about it on the Six Steel City Rings podcast.
Absolutely.
That's why we talk about it. Because why? We love the Steelers and we hate the Baltimore Ravens.
But mostly the Browns.
Well, I hate Cleveland.
With the exception of my stepdad and father-in-law. It's important to point that out. Love you both.
Hey, Bob, did you hear what I said? I hate the Cleveland Browns more than I hate Satan.
I don't know about that much. I mean,
a factory of sadness, I know, but goodness gracious.
Yep. I mean, only one good thing about Cleveland, and that's leaving. So anyway,
yeah, absolutely,
guys. Again, good talk.
Don't forget the bottom of the screen, guys.
That's right. And like, share, subscribe.
Turn on those notifications.
And again, please pass the word. Also, well, before I give my last word, Zach, any last words? Bob, any last words?
Nope. The only thing I will say is, for those of you who see my shirt, Steel City Rings, we're going to have merch available in the very near future. So if you like the shirt, we'll have some other items too. Please feel free, once it's live, to jump on our website and purchase it. That's coming soon. It's not ready yet. It's coming soon.
Zach?
A lot of work in though to get it ready for you, and I just hope LeeAnn gets back safely from her trip trying to access Steelers facility. I mean, at the beach, where she definitely is.
We miss you, LeeAnn.
And well, Tuesday was primary election day here in West Virginia, and I want to give a shout out to my good friend Rich Lindsay. He's won his election congrats, Rich. And I'm sure he's watching this. So again, Rich, congratulations. Thank you for tuning in to the podcast. Guys, let's check back in next week.
Absolutely.
Zach Facetious, Bob Quinn, I'm Ray Whiting. Guys, take care and be safe. Goodbye.